how's it going? Hope you're doing amazing today. And today I'm gonna talk about my experience at my culinary competition for baking and pastry. This story might not be that interesting, but I'm gonna tell you all about it because why not? Alright, let's start from the beginning. Okay, for the people that don't know about Skill USA's, it's basically some sort of partnership with students, teachers, and industry working together to ensure America has a skilled workforce. Skill USA helps each student excel. They provide educational programs, events, and competition that support career and technical education in the nation's classrooms. And I definitely didn't search that up and read it off of Google. Yeah. In this case, I'm currently taking culinary classes and ended up joining the baking and pastry course with some of my fellow friends and classmates. And of course, being on this requires me to stay after school every Tuesday and Thursday, well, to practice what we're gonna be making during competition, and that will be sugar cookies and apple galettes and decorating a cake. Once competition was coming near, we were required to stay after school every day, which took most of my free time, which is understandable enough. But oh boy, I was not expecting things to turn out the way it turned out the day of competition. It's February 17 on a Thursday. I had just woken up at 4:40 a.m. to start getting ready to leave for school. We had to be at school at exactly 5:45 a.m. We had to load all of our equipment for competition on the bus before leaving, of course. And oh boy, that ride was at least 2 hours long. I was just listening to music the whole entire ride, and while holding into 2 boxes of cakes. Anyways, as soon as we got there, we unloaded all of our stuff and set them inside our room. And we set all of the cakes in a table. We don't talk about that. So before starting baking, we had to mise and place all of our equipment in our table, which they gave us 15 minutes to do. I started feeling a bit anxious about this whole thing, which got me kind of confused on how to set my table up. But I eventually managed to set my table up. They then told us we had 2 hours to bake both our sugar cookies and apple galettes, which I started to feel kind of confused on what ingredients to start getting first. Then I decided to get all of my ingredients for my apple galettes, which I did not bother measuring the quantity of each ingredient since I had remembered the amount of each ingredient and how they look. Since I already been practicing multiple times, I had to make the galettes and cookies. But I believe I should have measured them instead, but I was in a rush to get things done on time. I started by making my galette fillings, so I had to peel my apples and cut them into the large dice, like cubes, yeah. And I had to present 4 perfect diced apples for the judges to grade. So I cut some perfect diced apples, somewhat perfect diced apples, and set them aside. After doing that, I started browning my cut apples before putting the rest of the ingredients in. While doing that, I started sharing my butter for my galette dough. I noticed that my friends decided to start doing their cookie dough before the galette dough, so I started to think if I should have done that as well. But I had already started doing my galette dough, which allowed me to set it in the freezer for it to chill for a few minutes. I then started on my cookie dough, but there was one small problem when it came to making the cookie dough. There was no microwave for me to soften the butter so it would be easier to mix. So I had to rely on kind of squishing the butter with my spatula in the bowl while mixing it. It took a bit of time, but I managed to get it to mix in. I was honestly thinking of using my saute pan to melt the butter, but kind of soften it, but that wouldn't really work out. Cause I was thinking of putting it in like plastic cup and then place it in top, like inside the saute pan, but I think that would just melt the plastic and that wouldn't be good. So I did not do that. After doing my cookie dough, I put it in the fridge for it to chill a bit, and that's when I heard we had 45 minutes left to finish and present, so I rushed to start making my galettes, which I had a problem doing due to the fact that I might have left my dough for too long in the freezer, which it ended up hardening a bit too much and it caused me some trouble trying to roll my dough out. I started to panic thinking I wasn't gonna be able to roll the dough, but I told myself I wasn't gonna give up right now, not after making it this far, and I was gonna do my best in this competition to make my chef proud of having me as her student and being part of her little army of chefs. So I was gonna roll that dough no matter what. And I did. I had to put some force into it. And then here comes the next problem. My apple fillings were a bit too big, so I had some trouble trying to close my galette up. They keep popping out, and I started panicking once again, knowing that they were not gonna turn out good. But I placed them in the oven either way, and also not leaving without a battle scar, or should I say a burn. The oven was goddamn whack. I burned myself trying to open the oven door. It was like it was glued in. I had to pull really hard on the door for it to open. I almost dropped my galettes on the floor. Hopefully that didn't happen because I would feel so miserable having to do all of my galettes again, especially since I wouldn't have time to do more. So after I placed my galettes in the whack-ass oven, I made my way to get my cookie dough and started cutting out the cookies. I then noticed my fellow companion beside me being done with both her galettes and cookies, while everyone else were making their galettes, and we had like 20 something minutes left. So I rushed to place my cookies on the oven, which the oven was located in the other side of a separate kitchen where the other school kids' competitors were located at. As I was making my way over there, I noticed a kid just standing there by the oven, which I found it weird and suspicious since I was the last one there placing my cookies. And I didn't left there without giving that kid a friendly death stare, thinking he might do something to my cookies to sabotage me. After that, I started to clean my area a bit before taking my galettes out of the oven, and oh boy, I was right about my galettes turning out bad. They were somewhat spread out, which they were not supposed to, and oh boy, I wasn't feeling confident anymore. I was feeling horrible, but I didn't have time for that. I needed to finish cleaning up my area and place my galettes on a plate to present. After doing that, I went to take my cookies out of the oven, and oh boy, was that same kid there standing there by the oven again. I was feeling really suspicious of him, but at the same time, I was wondering if he was just checking on my cookies to make sure they didn't burn or something. I couldn't really tell what he was doing. He looked like an NPC just standing there though. So I took my cookies out of the oven, and oh boy, were my cookies looking bad. Horrible, disgusting, a whole abomination. Well, not really, but they were not looking good. They were some okayish looking cookies, but the others were not so good. Seems like some of the cookies I cut were too thick and they ended up kind of inflating up, if you know what I mean. So I present the more good looking ones, of course. After placing our galettes and cookies in a table next to our number that we were given before competition started, we were then left to finish cleaning up before getting some food and meeting up with our chef to talk about how we did and how we were feeling. And oh boy, I was feeling really exhausted from all of that, and we still had a cake to decorate later on. We had a good talk and laugh about how we did and what we were experiencing at the moment. Some of my friends' cookies ended up getting burned due to some of the kids from the other school we were competing against kept changing the temperature of the oven for the cookies, which I'm glad that didn't happen to me, cause I would have ended everything right there and there. Like I would have had to restart making my cookies, and I didn't have time for that. And of course, those kids were told off by the judges that ended up noticing the issue that was happening, which it was a good thing, cause who knows what would have happened if that kept on happening. That would have messed us all up. After waiting for a couple of minutes in the room we were at, we were gonna start preparing for the cake decorating competition. So we went to pick up our cookies and galettes that we presented, and I noticed that the judges barely took a bite out of my galettes and cookies, which I was concerned. So I decided to take out of one of my cookies, and they didn't taste like sugar cookies. They were more like crackers. Like, how did that even happen? How did it turn out to be crackers? I felt so miserable at the moment and I wanted to cry. Just like, how did it end up being crackers? How? Anyways, I ended up throwing everything away because ain't nobody gonna eat that crap. Like, who just barely even touched them. Oh yeah, unfortunately, I didn't take any pictures on my cookies and galets and how they turned out, so I don't have any pictures of them. So my bad. They were so bad I didn't want to take a picture of them. Well, that was a lot of explaining and drawing. I'll do a part 2 for the cake decorating and for the awards. And I really hope y'all enjoys watching this animated story. So I guess that'll be it. I'll be seeing you in part 2. So be sure to punch that subscribe button and like button and turn that bell notification on to be notified of a new video. Alright, I'll see y'all in part 2. Bye!